It's time for Speaking of Speaking. Quick tips and tools to take you from stage fright to spotlight. This podcast gives you an inside look from the world of public speaking and speaking secrets you need to be bold from the stage, no matter what business you're in. The host of Speaking, Carl Richards.
Thank you, Matt. And yes, another edition of Speaking, episode 10. Today we'll be talking about 3 killer presentation tips that will make your talk sizzle every single time you step on stage. But before we do that, I thought we'd do our regular feature, Tales from the World of Public Speaking. This is an article that comes from Lisa Braithwaite. Lisa runs Speak Schmeek, which is another speaking organization. A lot of great articles I've read of hers over the years. And this one is 4 reasons to stop using PowerPoint. I want to share these with you. These are really, really valuable tools. Number 1, if you're still living in the 90s and using a lot of what she calls crappy clip art and stuff like that, yeah, that's a good reason to not use PowerPoint. If you insist on listing everything you know about your topic in your slides, you probably shouldn't be using PowerPoint. Exactly. If you face the screen the whole time, also probably a reason to stop using PowerPoint. And number 4, if you're unwilling to learn and use best practices for visuals, like cutting down on text and complex graphics and other visuals. So from Lisa Braithwaite, Speak Schmeek, some tips to stop using PowerPoint, especially if you're not good at it. But some killer presentation tips, though. And I want to share these with you because sometimes we overcomplicate the speaking process. We think about it way too much. Firstly, we worry about it because we're nervous. Let's face it, there are a lot of people who are deathly afraid of speaking. So because we worry about it so much, when it comes time to actually speak, we overcomplicate a number of things. So these are 3 things you can do. You can start doing these today. They're not overly complex, but they are things that will make all the difference in your presentation. Number 1 is know your stuff. Know your stuff. Know your material. To do a relaxed and confident presentation, there's one key thing you need to take care of. You take care of this one key thing and you'll deliver a presentation that keeps your audience interested every single time you speak. And it's really simple. It has nothing to do with bullet points. It has nothing to do with slide design. It has nothing to do with memorizing a script. In short, know your material. Know what you're talking about. Let's face it. That's why people are looking to you for expertise in your field, because you know what you know. If you don't know it, you're not going to share it, right? I mean, we've talked about that on some of these past podcasts where if you don't know your material, then you probably shouldn't be talking about it. But let's face it, if you are an expert already, let's say you are an expert, let's say you're a chiropractor. You already know how to be a chiropractor, so don't try and talk about how to plant a garden and make it grow. Talk about what you know. Talk about chiropractic. And because if you're talking about stuff you know, it should be very easy to get your point across. So know what you're talking about. Know exactly what you're talking about. That means you have to, when you are preparing your presentation, you have to figure out what exactly you want to share with the audience. What knowledge do you want to impart on the audience so they will then be moved to action? That's number 1. Number 2, get your timing right. Get your timing right. Treat time limits like maximums. You know, your slides are there to support the information you talk about with the audience, but make sure you are coming in on time. And as far as timing goes too, for impact, it's important that you get the timing right between what you say and when the slides or the animations appear. There's nothing worse, and I've seen this happen many times, there's nothing worse than a speaker who isn't aware of the order of their slide deck or isn't aware of what comes next or isn't aware of how much information is there. And the impact is lost if you have to constantly keep looking back at the screen all the time. Now, in modern technology, we have these things called laptops that make it easier to just look at a laptop screen, and therefore we don't have to turn back as much. But it depends on where the laptop is. It might be across the room. I've given talks where the laptop is at the back of the room, so I don't see the laptop. That means you still need to know the order of your presentation, which goes back to number 1. You have to know your stuff. You have to know your material. You have to get your timing right. And then you have to quit saying sorry. That's number 3. Quit saying sorry. All too often, speakers apologize when they shouldn't be apologizing all the time. If you make a mistake, it's okay to make a mistake. Just don't say sorry. And there are a lot of different ways that sorry can come into your presentation. For example, I'm sorry I didn't have time to prepare. Or I'm sorry I didn't get the slides ready in time. Or I'm sorry I clicked the wrong button. I'm sorry I don't understand the topic as well as I should. What you're telling the audience when you apologize like this, when you say I'm sorry all the time, you're telling the audience that you are wasting their time. You're wasting their time. That's what you're telling them. You're saying, I'm sorry, I've screwed up so much that and I've wasted your time. So why don't you just leave? Or you know what? I know you're not going to do that because you're a good audience and you don't want to be rude. So I'll just keep talking, but you can tune out. Essentially, that's what you're saying is because as soon as you start apologizing all the time, your audience will understand if you make a simple mistake. They get it. They understand that. But if you're constantly apologizing for every single thing, especially I'm sorry, I'm not a professional speaker. When you're at the front of the room, you are a professional. Professional speaker, maybe not, but you are the expert who is speaking on that subject material at that time. So don't say sorry. Keep going. We want to hear your information, and when the audience hears I'm sorry, or when you say to the audience I'm sorry, they don't hear I'm sorry. They hear you're wasting your time sitting there. That's what they hear. They hear that I'm sorry you're wasting your time. Connect with your audience. Give them information. Share your knowledge with them. And then give them a reason to want to follow up and book an appointment or buy your product or buy your book, whatever it is. So 3 killer presentation tips. Number 1, know your information, know your stuff, and you already know it. That's why you're doing what you do, because you already have that passion. So impart that knowledge on us like you know it. Get your timing right. Make sure that your timing in every part of your presentation, including your start time and your end time, is 100% correct. And quit apologizing. It makes you look completely incompetent, not to mention unprofessional. I hope these tips have been helpful today. Before I leave, I just wanted to remind you about my event, Be Bold from the Stage. It's our winter speaking showcase. You will see a lot of these tips that we've talked about. You'll see a lot of speakers on stage who will be doing all of these things. They'll be sharing their knowledge. They'll be doing it in their allotted time and letting you know that. And I guarantee you they will not say sorry. And if they do, there are probably some people that will be there that day who will be able to give them some evaluation points on that. But it's a great day. If you like TED Talks and you like Mo Mondays, you will really like Be Bold from the Stage. March 8th in Kingston at Travelodge. Tickets are $60. I still have some available. If you enter the promo code STAGE, STAGE, you'll get your tickets at 50% off. So $30 for a full day of inspirational speaking, of authenticity, and connecting with people, the human connection. That's what Be Bold from the Stage is all about. For tickets, ask Carl at carlspeaks.ca. Thanks for listening. We'll leave it there today. Until next time, it's Carl Richards. Get out there and own the platform.
Thanks for listening to the Speaking of Speaking podcast. Fired up about something you heard today? Want to learn more? Be sure to visit carlspeaks.ca. And don't forget to follow Carl on Twitter at CarlRichards72 or join the Facebook group Speaking of Speaking.